Hi, I'm Amy from Sassy and Crafty. Happy Stamp and Scrapbook Expo Day. So excited to be here with you guys. I'm really excited to show you a card that I've put together using a fun stencil technique I think you're really going to like. So why don't we go do that first, and afterwards I'm going to tell you guys all about some fun specials we have for you. All right, let's go. I'm starting out with white cardstock and some Distressed Oxide Pink Raspberry, and I'm just going to cover roughly a 6x6 area, and then I'm going to cut that and trim it down. I'm going to take my die cutting machine and our Sassy and Crafty knitted stencil. I'm going to place it on top of the paper. And then I saw this technique with Jennifer McGuire. She used a baby wipe, but sadly my babies are grown, so I'm just using a barely damp paper towel to place on top. You want to make sure it's not too wet, it's just barely damp. And you're going to run this through your machine. I ran it through about 4 or 5 times, and that seemed to work really well. Then you're just going to take it apart, and you're going to be left with this really incredible embossed and lightened pattern. It's going to be very wet, so you're going to want to set this aside till it's completely dry. I've used a cut file to cut out this little knitted heart from our Thank Me stamp set. And now I'm just going to go in and I'm going to color this one strip with RV52, my Copic markers. You can see off to the left there, those are the colors I'm using. The PC929 is a Prismacolor pencil, just so you guys know for reference. Now, to make this knitted texture, we're going to take our darker shade RV55 and just hit underneath each bracket, okay? We're just going to be placing a little bit of color at the bottom. Don't work too hard at this because in the end it's going to be really tiny and you don't have to do that much. So I'm going to put a couple of wispy lines in there with the pink pencil to add some texture. And in the end, I decided to go back and use a darker color pencil to put that in. And then when you're completely done, you're going to want to go over it a second time. So repeating that same pattern over and over again, the light pink, the dark pink lines, and then come in with your pink pencil and add a couple lines in there for texture. And then, like I said, in the end, I wanted to use a darker pink to give it more depth. You can always do that. If something doesn't feel like it has enough depth in your coloring, then go to your darkest shade that you've used and go one shade darker. That quite often will make it pop and make it look more dimensional. So I'm just taking this and going down the middle lines in between each knitted section, and then every now and then just underlining one of those tinier sections. I'm not going to do it all over. You just want to do it a tiny bit because, again, this is a really small image and you don't want to spend that much time on it. So when you're completely done, take your RV55 and just kind of edge out the bottom of it, and you've got that great shadowed textured look, and it looks really dimensional. We're going to do something really similar here with the buttons. We're going to color the buttons with E42, and this is, again, going to be really small work. So you want to remember when you're doing small work to just add a few brush strokes. Don't go over it a lot because that's where you get the bleeding problem. So I'm going to take my medium tone here, E43, and I'm going to go on one side of the button. I'm going to leave that little rim around the outside edge light to add depth, and then the bottom of it, I'm going to add a little bit of that E43. So now it looks like we have that shading on one side of the button. And because we want it to have more dimension, we're going to go one shade darker. So that's E44, and I'm going to put that in just the tiniest amount, not a ton, because we just want it to look like a dimensional button. But again, if we do too much, that's where it's going to bleed and not look very nice. So you'll see me go outside of the drawing there. That's because I'm going to cut it out, so it's okay to color outside of it. I've added a little bit of pink to the string, and now you're going to cut these out and they'll be perfect embellishments for the card. I've cut out a little scallop circle border for the heart. I wanted it to be kind of framed, but I wanted to add a little bit of pink back there because the white was just too plain for me. So you could skip that step if you wanted to. So I'm just going to foam tape my heart to the center here, and now we've got the perfect focal point to the card. I'm going to be using an A6 card measurements here, and I'm going to triple matte this. So I've got a dark turquoise card base, and I've got a lighter turquoise color that we're going on here. And then I'm going to be placing just a simple plain white cardstock square. But this is a great opportunity, if you wanted to not use white and to use something different. You could add pattern paper here. So let me show you a different idea. I'm taking craft cardstock here, and I have stamped one of the other pieces from the Thank Me set, which is a little crocheted heart. I've stamped it all over, and we're just going to take some Prismacolor pencils, and we're going to color that in, and we're also going to use a white gel pen. So when you go over this portion, you're going to just very lightly go over the stamped image with the pencil. You want it to be pretty light because if you color too dark, sometimes that can lose some of the tiny lines that you've stamped. So I'm just going to press ever so lightly to fill in that lighter pink. And then we're going to go around that with the darker pink to add that kind of pop, that dimension that I talked about. When you work often in really tiny spots, I always say, choose a light and a dark and skip the medium, because sometimes when the spaces are so tiny, it gets kind of muddled if you add too many colors. And in the end, what we really want is that texture, and we want the image to really pop and be 3D, right? So we want to go definitely with fewer colors, the better. So here you can see I'm just tracing around the outside edge of the button, and I'm adding in those dark pink lines. And I'm just pausing here for a minute to sharpen my pencil because it's really important when you do this technique, especially with small stamps, that you have a very sharp pencil. This is just a really great way to utilize your small stamps in your set. A lot of time we get those stamp sets and the stamps can be really, really tiny and you're not quite sure how to use them, as an accent or so in a card, but this is what's really fantastic. You can take those small stamps and you can use them to create your own background paper or embellishments. It's a fun way to use it, and it's really satisfying because when you're done, you have this gorgeous piece of pattern paper that you created all by yourself. So I'm just adding in these dark lines, and it's really important when you're doing this too that you're not coloring everything out. So I'm just literally making a straight line. I'm not adding shading. I'm not trying to darken anything. It's just a straight line. And, I felt like I was doing this too far away. So in a second, I'm going to show you a much closer view because I want you guys to see just like how small of a mark you need to make on that. So just like we did with our buttons that we colored with Copics, I'm doing the exact same thing here, but with pencils. So I'm leaving a highlight around the edge, I'm doing a medium shade in the middle, and then I'm going to kind of blend those together, not pressing too hard. And then I'm going to take my darkest shade, and that's what's going to add that shadow, making the button pop a little bit more. With colored pencils, if you color very lightly to start, then quite often by the time you get to the last colors, you can press a bit harder and go over all of it to really blend them together, and that's how you get that creamy, beautiful look. So here you see me going back with my light, and I'm just kind of blending everything together, so that way it gives it a little bit more dimension. I think this would be a really fun technique too that you could do on white cardstock using Copics. I think that would be really fun because you could color the entire background if you wanted to, or maybe even mask them and do distress inks over the outside edge. Okay, now we're up to my very favorite part. This is so fun. I love this technique because it really makes the image that you've just colored pop. So you're going to take a white gel pen and you're going to very carefully go around the outside edge of the flowers. And you don't have to do this. You could just stay with the colored image and it would have a soft look, but I just absolutely love the way it pops. I'm going to add a little bit of highlight to the buttons, and I think it just really makes it stand out. Look at how pretty that is. Isn't that totally fun? And it looks really dimensional. Now, I went ahead and colored really, really close as I could to show you. I'm literally drawing a few straight lines, and then I'm going to make a couple V's, and you can see that is the smallest amount of coloring you should be doing on these tiny images. So here I've colored the entire background, and I timed it, you guys, because I know you might be thinking this is a bit much, but this only took me 17 minutes. And that's because you're not doing detailed coloring. You're just popping in a little bit of color. And how fun is that? There's a totally different technique you could use to use your stamps to create a beautiful piece of pattern paper. And if you want, you could just throw a sentiment on and leave it like that, or you could pop a stamp in the middle and make that be the highlight and tie it all together with the colors. So just another fun technique. But let's get back to our card. We're just using that white background for this because we made our gorgeous knitted stencil paper, and I've stamped a little sentiment on the front, and I'm using a lot of adhesive here, and the reason why is because the paper does warp a little bit because it's had so much water on it. So make sure you secure it down. And I decided I needed a little tiny banner behind my heart because that just kind of frames it out, and I thought that was really cute. So I'm just going to foam tape that on to give it a bit more dimension. And now I've got foam tape on the back of our little buttons that we created. and you're just going to place those around the outside edge. I mean, how fun is that? You've got this great card with lots of dimension, lots of texture, and you also have a way to showcase your smallest stamps on your sets. I hope you guys enjoyed the card and the technique, and I hope you give it a try. It's really fun and really easy, and it always feels really successful when you can do something fast and simple, and it's beautiful when it turns out. So give it a try, experiment, maybe try some different techniques with it and see what you come up with. Be sure to post it because we'd love to see it. So let's talk a little bit about Sassy Crafty. We are a brand new stamp company that just came out 3 months ago. Our products are stamps and stencils, but they range from classic and elegant to sassy and quirky and fun. We kind of wanted to cover everything so that you as the customer have as many options as you possibly can. So we have 4x6 and 4x8 stamps. We also have really awesome stencils. Pretty sure you're going to find something in here, guys, that needs to be in your craft stash. Am I right? Take a look. I think you'll like it. So our stencils, like I said, we have a lot of really great and fun and different backgrounds. And if you go to our YouTube channel, you can see there that we have a 3-part series class on how to use your stencils in different ways. Totally free, fun, educational, and that's really what we're about. You know, we want to educate, we want to inspire, because in the end, this is all about you taking time out for yourself to fill your own cup and be creative and have fun. That's what's really important. So for our show special, we're doing a buy 3, get 1 free. So if you buy any one of our physical products online, you get a free stencil of your choice. Any one of our stencils. And it'd be really great because then you can go back to YouTube and see exactly how to use that stencil. So be sure to go on our site, check out our specials and take a look. We also sell digital products. We have coloring book backgrounds so that you can create background cards without having to try and draw it all in. I, as a child, loved coloring books, so I thought, what a great way to bring that into card making. Just color the background like you're coloring a coloring book, and you can pop your stamps right on the front. So unfortunately, our digital products don't qualify for your buy 3, get 1 free. It's only our physical products. But be sure to go to Sassy Crafty. Join us in social media. We want to see you there so that we can inspire you and that you can inspire us, because we love just having fun in this industry and enjoying, being artistic together. That's what's really fun for us. And I hope you guys have a wonderful crafty day at the expo. And thanks so much for joining me. Bye.